Good morning, everybody. It's Todd Fetterly. I'm your learning chair with EO Ottawa. And we have a little promo teaser video to send out with the one and only Bruce Firestone, local entrepreneur, legend, businessman, and founder, one of the founders of the Ottawa Senators. Many of you already know who Bruce is, and that's fantastic. And Bruce will be speaking with our group on December 16th. So we want everyone to join us. But some of you, because this is going out to EO right across Canada, may not know who Bruce is. So Bruce, great to have you here for this video. And in 60 seconds or less, but if you want to take a few more, that's okay. Who is Bruce Firestone?
Well, I'm really excited about talking to EO. I know a number of your members. I've worked with them, and I have a lot of respect for the organization. And thanks again, Todd and John, for inviting me. So I am best known as the founder of the Ottawa Senators and the Canadian Tire Centre. It's an arena that we built about 25 years ago that seats 22,500 people. But, you know, I built about 1,200 homes, maybe a bit more than that, and dozens of office buildings and shopping plazas. So I kind of known for that. But like most entrepreneurs in EO and elsewhere, you know, I was a bit restless. So I started all kinds of other businesses, maybe too many. You know, I started Ottawa Business News, which became Ottawa Business Journal, and many other companies. And I've also been a university professor. I taught at the Israeli School of Architecture and Urbanism at Carleton University and the Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa. Enjoyed that. I taught entrepreneurship and urban economics. I went to school, I went to McGill University to get my civil engineering degree. I was 15 when I went, so pretty young. And I graduated when I was 19 or turning 20, and I had a problem, Todd. You know, back in the day, you know, I'm 68 now, so back in the day, the age of majority in Canada was 21. So I went to job interviews and nobody would hire me because they considered me a child. You know, at 19 or 20, I didn't consider myself a child, but back then you couldn't even sign a time card. So I left Canada to Australia, and I went to Australia because they had changed the age of majority from 21 to 18. They had just done that, and they pulled their troops out of Vietnam, so I wouldn't get drafted and sent to Vietnam. I didn't want to fight in that war. And so I went to Australia, and I got my Master's of Engineering Science degree from the University of New South Wales in Sydney. I followed that up with a PhD in urban economics at the Australian National University. I was planning to be a university professor until my dad told me, came to visit me and his first grandson, my firstborn son of 5. And he said he needed some help in Ottawa. He said, just 6 months, Bruce, just 6 months. So I came back, and that's 35 years ago now.
Fantastic. That's quite the story, and we look forward to hearing more of that later this month. Bruce, we had sent a few questions out to our membership, and in no particular order, I'm going to give you some of those questions, and John's going to come in as well afterwards. But the one question that we had from one of our members is, you know, what is the one question you would ask a potential business partner to evaluate if you should take him or her on as a partner?
So, you know, when I was a teacher, when I was a professor at both universities where I taught, I used to say to my students that the number one thing in life is trust. And of course, they're young people, you know, 21, 22 years of age. And at that age, naturally, they're thinking the most important thing in life is love. And I said, don't think so. I said, if your girlfriend or your boyfriend, your partner, you know, is fooling around with your best friend behind your back, you know, what kind of a relationship would that be? And they kind of think, you know, by the time they're 22, many of them have had that experience, and they think that would be really awful, which is, of course, the case. And I said, no, it's trust. And whether it's a life partner you're deciding on or a business partner, it is kind of like a marriage. But I have to say, Todd, that in my opinion, the best number of partners to have is 0. Now, that may not go over too well with your members, but I really do believe that. And the reason for that is that speed to decision is very important, especially in startups and small businesses. And so when I coach people, because I do some coaching now, when I do some business coaching or real estate investment coaching, and I've got more than 1 or 2 people, more than one involved, so 3 or 4 perhaps, I do talk about trust, and I also talk about something very simple to do. And so I would advise your members to at least consider that. And I'm going back about 20 years ago when 4 young people at Carleton University and University of Ottawa came to me, and they wanted to start something called Grade A Techs. Today it's just called Grade A. There were 4 partners, and I told them the best number of partners to have is 0. They didn't listen. So I said, what you could do instead is you could have a very simple voting trust. And you give one of your four, I don't care which one, a voting trust for 5 years. So if there is a deadlock, you don't end up with an orphan company. And they did that, and now they're worth, I'm sure they're worth tens of millions of dollars, but that voting trust seemed to help them. Speed to decision is very important.
Fantastic. John, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Todd, and great to make yourself available here, Bruce. Yeah, so my question is, yeah, you know, I'm looking at the book here, and it resonates with a few questions from our members. So first one is, what do you feel is the value of a business peer group?
Yeah, well, again, I'm going to go to the girlfriend and boyfriend scenario, you know, or your life partner. And John, I don't know if you've ever had an argument with your spouse, if you have one, or life partner.
No.
Never, right? I haven't had many with mine either, but I've had a few. And then, you know, while you're quietly thinking about it, you know, a few days later, you think, oh, if that ever comes up again, I've got a heck of a zinger. You know, I'm going to unleash this. And then it does come up again, and you unleash it. And the moment it gets out of your mouth, you realize what a nincompoop thing it is to say. So verbalizing to a peer group is incredibly important. If you think you have a secret, you know, a lot of people come to me and say, I've got a secret idea. No one's ever thought of it before. Well, that is almost certainly not true. There are probably 30 million smart Americans in their basements now inventing ideas. There's probably 3 or 4 million Canadians doing. There's millions of Chinese and Indian entrepreneurs, Russian entrepreneurs, you name it. So pretty much everything that you are thinking about has been thought about or is being thought about. And if you don't verbalize what you're doing to a trusted group of peers, you probably will have a business that will be stillborn.
Yeah, what you mentioned there really resonates, and it's great to have that sounding board that you talked about. And these people get you too. It's interesting. Other question we had listed here is on the topic of coaches. You mentioned that you provide coaching. So how about, you know, for yourself, how valuable have coaches and mentors been in your business career?
Well, you know, I had a coach. He was a well-respected business person back in the day when I was in my late 20s and I got going. And he was a wonderful sounding board. He was a mentor, a good person, a trustworthy person. And unfortunately, he took early retirement at 55, moved to Florida, and died a year later, 56. And one of the biggest mistakes in my career is I did not replace him. His first name was Murray, until I was 60. So I went 30 years without a mentor or coach or sounding board. And I had some success, but I also had some failures. And I think I would have done better if I had replaced Murray with somebody else. And, you know, when you look at the National Hockey League and the National Football League, about 50% of all NHL players are broke within 5 years of their playing days being over, and about 75% of National Football League players. And that is atrocious. So if I were an owner of the Senators again, or any major league sports franchise, probably the first thing I would do is I would hire a life coach for every one of my players. Terrell Owens, who's a well-known former National Football League receiver, has told the story publicly that, you know, when his playing days were over, he did find himself a coach, and has made a huge difference to his personal life, how he relates to people, his business career. And if he had done it a few years earlier, he still would be playing.
Wow, amazing. So Bruce, I know we're not going to take a lot of time today, and we have a great presentation on the 16th.
Yep.
Can you give us a snippet of what our audience can expect from the presentation on the 16th?
Well, you know, Todd, you and I have gone back and forth on this a couple of times. And like most of the entrepreneurs, I bet you all of the entrepreneurs who will join us for the keynote, you and I have pivoted. So we were going in one direction, and then as we got closer to Christmas and we thought about it a little bit more, I think I'm going to talk about take care of you. You know, almost all of your EO members, I'm sure all of them, are thinking about and taking care of their business 24/7, 365. You know, they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're writing notes. And that's great. I encourage that. But also the other thing is they're not necessarily taking care of themselves. And so one of the things I started doing about 7 years ago after I retired from the University of Ottawa was I decided not to retire and just to sit at home and watch TV. My dad, before he passed away, said people should never retire. Change what you do, but don't just sit at home and watch TV. That would be terrible, I think, for a person. And I hate golf, so that wouldn't work either. I'm so bad at it. So I decided to try and help people start a personal business for life, as opposed to a business that is owned by maybe many shareholders, many partners, what have you, maybe something that's going to go IPO or is going to get bought out. And I call it a personal business for life. So I do quite a bit of coaching and focus on personal business for life, and also having a real estate portfolio. A lot of people are not really happy with their independent pension plans, their financial planners, their tax-free savings accounts, their RSPs, their mutual funds. And I wasn't either. And so I thought, well, I'll do something else. I'll invent my own plan. I call it NewPin, New Era Financial Plan. And it involves personal business for life and also building an above average performing real estate portfolio. And that's what I'd like to focus on.
Fantastic. And finally, Bruce, the last question, and one that I've thought about when I was speaking with you, and it was in the back of my mind. Would you ever buy another sports franchise again?
You're killing me. So the short answer would be no. You know, one of the things I teach people to do is don't operate a business that loses money every month, and don't buy real estate that loses money every month. That is not really fun. To lose 30 or 40 million US dollars a year operating a sports franchise because you hope one day it will appreciate in value, to me is not a really good operational principle. So the short answer is no. And I remember back in the day when I was serving on the NHL Board of Governors, I helped negotiate a very large, I think a doubling of television revenues for the National Hockey League. And one of the owners, who was Dr. John McMullen in the New Jersey Devils, told me he was going to vote against it. I said, John, you're going to vote against this thing? I've spent 6 months of my life negotiating this, and you're going to vote against it. He said, yes, because my fellow owners are just going to turn around and give it to the players. And he turned out to be right. So I'll conclude this session with an inside joke in the National Hockey League. What are the 3 fastest ways to get poor? The first one is buy a horse ranch. The second one is to get divorced. And the third one is to buy a National Hockey League team. And I've only done one of those 3.
Okay, that's fantastic. So folks, December 16th, we're going to have a wonderful time with Bruce Firestone about taking care of yourself as a business owner. Bruce, we really appreciate the time you spent with John and I today. Yeah. Love it. And I think this will give us a great insight for our event coming up.
I hope so, and I'm really looking forward to it. I have a lot of respect, as I said earlier, for the organization, and I think it's a really important thing that you're doing.
Awesome.
Yeah, and on behalf of the entrepreneurs in Ottawa, we appreciate you making your time available for this, Bruce. This is looking forward to it.
Me too.